But let's get cracking with the show. Then we have Mayuresh Joshi, who joins us on the show, and also we have Manish Sharma, who joins us to answer all your queries. Hi gentlemen, thanks so much for joining in this afternoon. Let's get straight to our first caller who's standing by. I think we should go across to our first caller. Ashwin is calling us from Mumbai. He has investments in L&T. Hi Ashwin, good afternoon. How can we help you?
Hi sir, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Sir, I am holding L&T share 35 shares from the month of November 2050 at the rate of 1367.
Okay.
What should I do, sir?
All right. And Ashwin, I believe that you're a long-term investor?
No, approximately 1 year. You can say that.
All right. So is it okay if you can extend your time horizon to around 1.5 to 2 years? That'll be better. You know, if you have a longer time frame, then it's better for our experts to advise you.
So even I can invest more in that also.
All right. You want to put in more money as well. Okay. Let's go across to Mayuresh first. Mayuresh, what's your take? He's bought L&T. Someone would have believed that 1300, it's a bit of a bottom out for it. Unfortunately, it went all the way down below the 1100 level as well. What's your take? He wants to hold it for around a year. I was trying to convince him for around 1.5 to 2 years. He doesn't mind buying it at these levels as well. You believe that in fact he should stay invested, given that they have a good amount of their exposure to the Middle East as well. There's a lot of doubt in terms of orders coming in from there.
Afternoon, Nigel. Clearly, I think the doubt still persists in terms of how the energy and crude prices are moving at this point of time. And execution again has been a sort of a deterrent for the stock from a medium-term perspective. Having said that, Nigel, I think the order book is quite robust, close to 2,56,000 odd crores. So that gives decent revenue visibility. You're talking about the net working capital cycle actually getting peaked off around the 24-25% mark. I think the negatives that the stock carries along with the entire sector is the kind of order flows that one really expects to be very, very tepid over the next few quarters. Execution again is going to be extremely key. The slow moving orders are going to be concerned. I think L&T has, I think, few of them compared to a BHEL. So clearly I think you're talking about slowdown happening. The hydrocarbons business might have some amount of issues, but it has been strongly resilient over the last few quarters. And again, I think what happens with the non-core assets. So what L&T has, apart from its standalone engineering and hydrocarbons division, is its IT business as well. So any listing thereof over the next few quarters, what it does with its real estate arm, the SOTP valuation also taking into account the finance arm that L&T has got in terms of L&T Finance Holdings. So clearly I think we're talking about a company which is probably in the right scheme of things for the Indian economy. I think we're not seeing the right moves happening in terms of the credit cycle, and that's why the tepidness probably in a lot of these stocks. It might for all eventuality, along with the markets correct another 10-12% from the current level. But in my opinion, I think that gives a better entry point for the investor. And as you rightly pointed out, I think you should have a longer time horizon of a year, year and a half to say the least.
All right, Mayuresh, speaking of market correction, well, we've just lost 7,100 on the index. The culprits are the same. It's actually the Nifty Bank that's leading the decline once again today. And the fall is across both sides of the spectrum. It's no longer just PSU banks, though, of course, the PSU Bank index is falling more. But even if you look at stocks like an ICICI Bank or a Yes Bank today or an Axis Bank, all of them are down and out. And of course, no-brainer here with the massive rally in crude oil prices because of that meeting that's underway in Doha, hopes of some kind of a supply production cut and therefore a supply breakthrough. That is putting a lot of pressure on the oil marketing companies. So BPCL is your biggest loser on the index right now. That's the oil rally we're speaking of. But Nigel, looking a little iffy for the market now, down a whole 1%.
That's right. You know, so if we just take a look at it, some of those European markets as well, they've come off the high point of the day. Now we have the DAX that's holding with a gain of only around 0.1%. I was looking at the European opening earlier, and in fact, the DAX was high with a gain of around 0.5%. We have the CAC as well that slipped close to around 0.3% from the top. So there is some kind of profit booking that we're seeing in the European markets. Make no mistake about it, from the Asian markets itself, the Nifty was always an underperformer from the word go. We had the likes of the Shanghai market, the Kospi, etc. All of them ended in the green, but in fact we were trading in the red, and currently we've moved to the low point of the day. So as will be pointed out, there are a few stocks that are slipping. Just take a look at Bank of Baroda. It was the biggest gainer yesterday. Now in fact it's moved to the low point of the day, sitting with a cut of close to around 5%. SBI, that's really the big heavyweight of that. That started slipping at around 12.30 odd, and that one in fact has now moved to the low point of the day. So the PSU Bank index as well should be up for you, because some of the biggest losers on the Nifty are SBI, PNB as well as Bank of Baroda. all of them in fact taking a bit of a whack. And take a look at the mid-cap space. Now we're down close to around 2% over there, so that market as well is struggling. A few of those stocks, Strides, Sashun, in fact now it's at around 890 rupees. That's lost close to around 7.5%. Bharti Infratel as well is seeing a lot of selling pressure as well, so not looking too good. Nifty has broken the 7,100 mark. We're trying to creep back towards the 7,100 level, while the mid-cap index is down close to 2%, and the bank Nifty, as has been the case from early morning trade, is down 1.3%.
Two more stocks that are contributing to this fresh leg down. I mean, they've been fence sitters, but then there's some clear pressure. So Reliance has buckled under pressure in the last couple of minutes. ITC has been sitting on the fence, and the cuts kind of got a little deeper, and therefore the fall that we've seen. You can see Reliance there, it's really single-handedly pushed the index down in the last couple of minutes. But as you're saying, there is some kind of a fight underway at 7,100.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can retain it or not.
All right, then I think we have a market guest as well that joins us currently. I think Anand Tandem is joining us. Hi Anand, thanks so much for joining in this afternoon. What's your take? What triggered this fresh round of selling? Now we've dipped below that 7,100 level. Any kind of trigger that you're spotting? Is it some redemption pressure that we're seeing?
Well, I don't think there is any trigger, nor is there a need for one. I think the market trend is down.
Yeah.
And what we saw yesterday was obviously a short covering kind of rally,
Sure.
followed by perhaps some institutional buying from LIC and the likes. So I think, if absent those buying, I think the market will continue to perhaps trade weak.
Anand, just the other day, I think it was just 2 days back, we were speaking on markets forward, and you were quite pessimistic about the overall outlook and on banks. Since then, we've got some commentary from bank chiefs themselves. We've heard Bank of Baroda tell us that they've taken the worst of the hit and the pain is pretty much out of the system for them. Today morning, we had Ms. Bhattacharya of State Bank of India come out and say that for State Bank, it will continue for a bit. What's your advice on bank stocks right now, and what is your forecast? How do you think they'll behave over the next couple of weeks? Because they'll pretty much lead the market in whichever direction they go.
Absolutely, I think, the ability of any management to forecast is very low. And especially in an environment where we are still struggling to find growth, to think that the NPAs are not being created even today is, to my mind, being overly optimistic. If the economy were to continue to be in doldrums, I don't see how new NPAs will not get created. And of course, the new lending may be at a little better, somewhat better quality. But here, we're not seeing too much lending growth anyway. So the bank portfolio will then have to shrink, which will mean that, there will be further pressure on valuation. So for the moment and foreseeable future, I don't see any particular reason to jump into that sector. Obviously, there will be some upside once the government announces its recapitalization plan, which I'm sure they will do in and around the budget. And, there will be some excitement around that period. But I think the more fundamental issue which the finance minister recently alluded to and which I would be looking out for is to see how we can fundamentally change the lending pattern of banks. For now, the only thing I can think of is that the bank capital requirement should be significantly raised.
All right, Anand, one final question before we let you go. That the other day we breached the 6,900 mark. Is that the near-term bottom for the Nifty, or do you believe in fact that was just a pit stop and we're going to go ahead and break that level as well?
Well, near term, you may assume that, we will continue to trade water at that level. But I would be careful to see what's happening in the budget. If there are increases in taxes and a focus on trying to maintain fiscal deficit to the extent of harming growth, which is what I see the government currently doing. If I don't see an attempt to increase the growth and money in the hands of consumers, I think we are looking at long way down from here.
Anand, are you advising any buys in this market? A lot of people have been saying it's a good opportunity for long-term investors, etc.
I think the question is, what is the upside versus downside? Most of these things are a probability game. The best that I can see the upside near term is maybe through 300 points. So that's what you will lose if the market were to suddenly turn around. The downside, as I said, is that the policy doesn't come in to support spending and doesn't return money to the consumers. Then I think, you are looking at degrowth in the economy in the real world coming through again. And that is not going to create any major upside. So to me, the risks on the downside even now outweigh the risks on the upside.
All right, Anand, thanks so much for joining. That's Anand Tandem. The other day as well, he sounded quite cautious and he's saying that in fact on the upside, maybe you can play for around 2 to around 300 points, but on the downside, it's looking quite deep. By the way, the Nifty, in fact, we saw certain stocks try to pull the Nifty back towards the 7,100 level. Unfortunately, we have come in for a fresh bout out of selling. So Z Entertainment should be up for you on the screen. That stock has got a bit of a knock, and we have a Kotak Mahindra Bank that was a relative underperformer in yesterday's trading session. That stock as well has suddenly slipped, and TCS as well. That's the other stock in there that's taken a bit of a knock. By the way, BHL, watch out for that stock. It's lost close to around 1.5% in the last few minutes. It's moving towards that 100 odd level.
Just very quickly to point out, Nigel, what's happening in the broader market as well, because that's where the pain is far more apparent. So the index is down 1%, the Nifty or the Sensex. The mid-cap index is down a whole 2%. The advanced decline ratio is quite negative. It is now creeping, inching towards a 1:4 kind of a figure, favoring the declines. And some of the main losers on the downside, of course, your whole clutch of mid-cap PSU banks are down. Whether you're looking at an OBC, you're looking at, some of the other names like a UCO Bank, etc. UCO's down 5% odd. But beyond that, stocks like Jet Airways, Just Dial, and if one was hoping that yesterday's move was some kind of an end to the pain for Just Dial. Yeah. So a lot of these, very keenly spoken about mid-cap stocks, all falling.
That's right. So we just take a look at South Indian Bank. It was down with a cut of only around 1.5%, and we started off the show just 10 minutes ago. Take a look at South Indian Bank. What's happened to that one? We have Bharti Infratel as well. That's seen a big knock, in SRF as well. It's down close to around 5% as we speak. But by the way, the Nifty is even falling even faster now. In fact, we are seeing some incremental selling that's coming in there. Tata Motors, just pull up that stock. It slipped a good percent in the last 10 minutes. So that stock should be up for you on the screen. And the stock that we were just discussing, L&T, now it's down close to around 3.5%. It slipped close to around 0.5%. So Tata Motors, there's a sharp knock that we're seeing with the L&T as well, is dragging the index yet again. Remember, yesterday we saw a big surge. L&T, in fact, currently returning back to the sell list. So let's do one thing. Let's slip into a short break. You come back, we'll track all the internals of the markets. By the way, the advanced decline ratio as well, not looking too good. Stay tuned. Come back then, we are close to 15 points off that 7,100 mark, so that's not too good news. In fact, a few stocks that were selling off, something like a Tata Motors has really taken most of the punishment, and we have Grasim as well that suddenly joined the selling list, so that's not looking too good. But the mid-cap index, as would be pointed out, the pain is far more there. Bharti Infratel should come up for you. That stock in fact has taken a whack. We have Century Textile. Just pull up the intraday chart of that stock as well. Pull up Bata. These are some of the mid-cap stocks that are getting a hard knock in the last few minutes. Apollo Tyres as well should come up for you on the screen. That one as well is taking a bit of a knock. Our ticker team is alerting you about the Dow futures, I think, so that's indicating a bit of a positive opening, but keep in mind it's fairly illiquid at this point of time. So the Nifty is looking fairly brittle. Just pull up Marksans Pharma. Now it's at around 40 rupees. Sharp knock is being seen over there. It's down close to around 7%. So just pull up Marksans Pharma as well. You'll see that that one has taken a bit of a knock. It's down 6.5%, moving to the low point of the day. But let's go to our next caller then. We have Ravi Pandey, who calls us from Uttarakhand. He has investments in Hotel Leela. Hi Ravi ji, good afternoon. आपका सवाल क्या है?
जी नमस्कार, मेरा सवाल ये है कि मैंने होटल लीला के शेयर किए थे एट द मंथ ऑफ दिसंबर 2015.
ओके,
मैंने 100 शेयर किए थे, तो कब तक ये होल्ड करने के लिए सही रहेगा? हाउ मच टाइम?
All right, and Ravi, how long do you want to hold these shares? You have a long-term investor, I believe, more than 2 years, 3 years?
No, 1 year.
Only 1 year?
Yes, not more than that.
Not more than that. All right, let's go across to Manish. Manish, what's your take on Hotel Leela? He's making a small loss. He's a student. Unfortunately, everyone wants to make money quickly, so he doesn't want to hold it for the longer term. He's saying he wants to hold it just for a year.
The stock is trading with a positive bias and still looking strong on the daily and weekly charts. The stock is trading at a crucial support level of around 17 rupees, which is also a 50 DMA of the stock. So trading with a positive bias, one can definitely hold the long positions with a strict stop loss at 15 rupees and look for the target of around 25 rupees with a 1 year time frame.
Okay, that's Hotel Leela. Of course, the fall continues and some real big mid-cap casualties there today. If you're looking at some stocks, then as Nigel pointed out, a couple of names from the pharma space, Marksans, Strides, Shasun. Then there are others. I mean, take a look at a PFC, for instance, down 5.5%. Eros continues to fall. Eros is down almost 5.5% as we're speaking. Dishman, another name from the pharma space. So lots of casualties in the broader market. But on that note, let's also get you a very quick programming note. In our third edition of Budget Guest Editor, catch Rhythm Desai of Morgan Stanley, who would be here to discuss the market setup in the run-up to the budget. And he'll be joining in tomorrow. That's Wednesday, the 17th of February, 11 a.m. onwards, only on CNBC TV 18. All right, we'll take a quick break on that note, but on the other side, some more questions.
Welcome back. Then we're sitting below that 7,100 odd mark. It's not looking too good because we've seen some incremental pressure in the last 10 to around 15 minutes. But just a quick check on the options data. Then the 7,200 call is very, very active. Today it's added close to around 17 lakh shares approximately. The premium over there has moved from around 66 rupees all the way to around 40 rupees. So keep your eye out on that particular strike. There is a fair bit of writing over there telling you that there will be a firm resistance at around the 7,200, 7,250 odd level. And also keep your eye out. The 6,900 put very, very active. 3 lakh shares getting added over there. If you bought it yesterday at around 20 rupees, today you will be taking home a return of close to around 50%. The premium currently is at around 31 rupees.
That's what's happening. And of course, finally, as we sign out, an eye on ITC. It's really broken down that chart. It's lost quite a bit in the last half an hour or so, and of course it's been responsible for this 1% down move on the index as well. You can see that ITC is at no sign of recovery. It's falling as we speak. We'll wind up this edition of Your Stocks on that note, but do stay tuned because closing bell will take the action forward.